The rain had stopped by the time Lisa pulled into her parents' driveway, but she barely noticed. Her vision was still blurred, not from the water on the windshield, but from the tears she had been fighting for the past 2 hours. The engine of her modest Honda Civic ticked as it cooled, a stark contrast to the chaotic symphony playing inside her skull. Today was supposed to be a good day. She had woken up early, put on her favorite blue blouse, and practiced her pitch for the quarterly review. Instead, at 3:47 p.m., Meredith from HR had called her into the glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor. The words still echoed sharp and sterile. Lisa, due to unforeseen budget restructuring, your position has been eliminated. Your final day is today. 8 years. 8 years of late nights, missed birthdays, and blood, sweat, and tears poured into a company she had helped build from a startup of 12 people to a corporation of 2,000. And they had let her go with a pre-printed severance letter and a cardboard box that smelled like photocopier toner. She had driven for an hour in a daze before remembering her mother's text from that morning. Dinner tonight, 7 p.m. sharp. Don't be late. No explanation. No, are you okay? Just an order. As Lisa stepped out of the car, clutching her handbag like a lifeline, she saw the glow through the living room windows. The chandelier her mother had insisted on buying last year was blazing. She could hear music, upbeat celebratory pop music, and the clinking of glasses. For a single, foolish, desperate second, her heart lurched. They know, she thought. Someone told them I lost my job. They gathered everyone to support me. She walked up the porch steps, past the neatly trimmed hedges, and opened the front door. The scene that greeted her was not a wake. It was a coronation. Streamers, gold and silver, hung from every doorway. A massive banner stretched across the fireplace mantel, glittering under the light. Congratulations, Chloe! Junior manager! Her younger sister, Chloe, stood in the center of the room, holding a flute of champagne. She was wearing a silk navy dress that cost more than Lisa's monthly rent. Her hair was perfectly blown out, and her laugh was that practiced musical sound she used when she was the center of attention. Surrounding her were aunts, uncles, cousins, and family friends, at least 40 people. Lisa froze in the doorway. Lisa, there you are, her mother Patricia called out, not with warmth, but with the sharp efficiency of a stage manager spotting a late actor. You're almost an hour late. We already started. Chloe just got her award. Lisa's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She felt the cardboard box in her trunk. She felt the letter in her bag. She felt the weight of her entire world collapsing. I need to talk to you, Lisa whispered, stepping toward her mother. Patricia waved a dismissive hand. Not now, honey. Your father is about to make a toast. Go put your bag down and try to smile. You look like you've seen a ghost. We don't need you bringing the mood down on Chloe's big night. Chloe's big night, a junior manager promotion at a mid-tier marketing firm. Lisa had been a senior director before she was fired, but no one had ever thrown her a party. No one had ever hung a banner for her. Lisa's father, Robert, appeared from the kitchen, holding a large, ornate cake. It was a 3-tiered monstrosity, decorated with edible gold leaf and tiny sugar briefcases. It must have cost a fortune. He placed it on the center table as the crowd sang a slurred, happy chorus of "For she's a jolly good fellow." Chloe spotted Lisa and smirked. Oh, big sis, you made it. I was starting to think you were jealous. She laughed, and a few relatives chuckled along. Lisa swallowed the lump in her throat. Congratulations, Chloe. Thanks. It's a huge step. Some of us just have that drive, you know, Chloe said, turning back to her admirers. For the next 2 hours, Lisa became a ghost in her own family home. She was sent to the kitchen to help her mother warm up appetizers. She was asked to refill ice buckets. When one of her cousins asked how work was going, her mother cut in before Lisa could answer, "Oh, Lisa's work is always so serious. Let's not bore everyone. Chloe, tell them about the corner office you're getting." Lisa's hands trembled as she arranged mini quiches on a platter. The dismissal was so casual, so routine, that it hurt more than any insult. She wasn't just excluded, she was erased. Her crisis was an inconvenience, a party foul to be avoided. At one point, she pulled her father aside in the hallway. "Dad, please, I really need to tell you something important." Robert, a tall man with graying temples and a perpetual look of distraction, glanced at his watch. "Can it wait until tomorrow? Cake is about to be cut, and I need to make sure the neighbors don't take the leftover champagne." "No, it can't wait," Lisa said, her voice cracking. "I lost my job today. I was fired." Robert blinked. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, surprise perhaps. Then just as quickly it was gone. "Fired? What did you do?" "Nothing. Budget cuts. 8 years, and they just—" "Well," he interrupted, patting her shoulder in a way that was neither comforting nor sincere. "You'll figure it out. You always do. Now come on. Your mother will be angry if we miss the toast to Chloe." The toast came and went. Lisa stood in the corner, holding a glass of water she had no intention of drinking. She watched her sister bask in the adoration, watched her parents glow with pride. She thought about her empty bank account, her mounting bills, and the terrifying silence of a Monday morning with nowhere to go. Then, as the party began to wind down and guests filtered toward the coat rack, her father approached her again. He had a piece of paper in his hand, a receipt from a high-end bakery. "Lisa," he said, his tone suddenly businesslike, "your mother and I covered the catering, the drinks, and the venue, obviously. That's over $2,000. But we need you to chip in for the cake." Lisa stared at him. "What?" "The cake," he repeated, holding out the receipt. "It was custom ordered from Patisserie Marie. $400. Your mother and I already paid the deposit, but you owe us the balance." Dad, I just told you, I lost my job. I have no income. From behind him, her mother materialized like a specter. Patricia's eyes were narrow, her lips pressed into a thin line of impatience. Oh, stop inventing drama out of thin air just to get out of chipping in, Lisa. You've always been dramatic. Chloe said you were probably just sulking because the spotlight wasn't on you for once. I'm not inventing anything, Lisa said, her voice rising. I was fired. Today, 3 hours before this party. I have a severance letter in my bag. Patricia sighed dramatically, rolling her eyes. You and your stories. You always have to make everything a tragedy. Oh, poor Lisa. The world is so unfair. It's $400 for your sister's celebration. You have a good job. Or you did until your fictional layoff. You can spare some money for family. The word family hit Lisa like a slap. She looked at her father. He wouldn't meet her eyes. He just held the receipt out, patient and implacable. She looked at her mother, whose expression was a mask of cold, smug certainty. She looked across the room at Chloe, who was scrolling through her phone, utterly indifferent to the quiet war happening 10 feet away. And in that moment, something inside Lisa broke. Not the fragile, crying kind of break. No, this was the clean, sharp snap of a rope finally severing. She stopped feeling sad. She stopped feeling desperate. She stopped feeling angry. She felt nothing. And from that nothing, a cold, clear resolve was born. Fine, she said quietly. She pulled out her phone, opened her banking app, and transferred $400 from her rapidly dwindling savings account to her father's account. She showed him the confirmation screen. There, she said, the cake is paid for. Robert nodded, folding the receipt and stuffing it into his pocket. Thank you, Lisa. That's very responsible of you. Patricia smiled, a thin, victorious smile. See? That wasn't so hard. Now, go help Chloe pack her gifts into the car. Lisa did not help Chloe pack her gifts. Instead, she walked upstairs to the guest bedroom that had once been her childhood room. It was now a storage space for her mother's exercise equipment and old holiday decorations. She opened the closet, pulled out a single duffel bag, and began to pack. Not much. A few old photographs, her grandmother's locket, a sweater her late grandfather had given her. The things that mattered. She wrote nothing. She said nothing. There were no dramatic goodbyes, no tearful confrontations. She simply walked back downstairs, duffel bag over her shoulder, as the last of the guests were leaving. Chloe saw her first. Where are you going? Lisa stopped at the front door and looked back at the scene. The dirty champagne glasses, the half-eaten golden cake, her mother wiping down the kitchen counters, her father pouring himself a whiskey, her family. Merry Christmas, Lisa said flatly, though it was only October. Then she opened the door and walked out into the cold, dark night. She didn't look back. Part 2. The Ashes and the Spark. The first 3 months were brutal. Lisa moved into a rundown studio apartment on the south side of the city, the kind with a flickering fluorescent light and a radiator that clanked like a dying engine. She lived on ramen noodles and coffee. She sold her car. She canceled every subscription, every luxury, every small comfort. Her family did not call, not once. A week after the party, Chloe sent a single text. Mom said you're being dramatic. You should apologize for leaving early. Lisa typed back, no. Then she blocked Chloe's number. Her mother left a voicemail on the second week. Lisa, your father and I are very disappointed in your behavior. When you're ready to apologize to your sister, you know where to find us. Lisa deleted it without listening to the end. Her father sent an email on the third week. We've removed you from the family group chat until you decide to act like an adult. Lisa laughed at that, a dry, hollow laugh. She had been removed from a chat she didn't even know still existed. For 3 weeks, she allowed herself to grieve. She cried in the shower. She stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering how she had become so disposable to the people who were supposed to love her unconditionally. She hit rock bottom on a Tuesday when her bank account dipped below $200, and she realized she couldn't afford both rent and groceries. But rock bottom has a funny way of becoming a solid foundation. On the fourth week, Lisa got angry. Not the hot, sputtering anger of a tantrum, the cold, focused anger of a woman with nothing left to lose. She pulled out her laptop, a 5-year-old model with a cracked screen, and began to write. She had skills. 8 years in corporate strategy meant she knew how to build systems, optimize operations, and spot market inefficiencies. She had a network, not of friends but of former colleagues who respected her work. She had a brain that refused to quit. She started small. Freelance consulting gigs for local small businesses, a coffee shop that needed inventory management, a boutique that needed a social media strategy. She worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. She took every job, no matter how small. She built a website. She registered an LLC under a name that meant nothing to anyone but her, Phoenix Rising Solutions. Because from the ashes, she would rise. Month 4. She hired her first employee, a college dropout with a gift for data analysis. Month 6. She landed her first corporate client, a mid-sized logistics company that had heard about her reputation for turning around failing departments. Month 9. Phoenix Rising Solutions had 5 employees, a real office, a shared workspace with decent coffee, and a growing list of clients. Month 12. She bought her car back. A better one this time, a used but reliable Audi. Month 18. She moved out of the studio apartment and into a two-bedroom condo with a balcony that faced the sunrise. She framed her grandmother's locket and hung it on the wall. She never once looked up her family online. She never asked about them. She didn't attend holidays. She didn't send birthday cards. She simply built, and as she built, she healed. Not completely. The scars remained thick and white, but enough to remember that she was not defined by their rejection. Part 3. The Reckoning. 2 years after the party, almost to the day, Lisa was sitting in her corner office. Her corner office with windows on two sides and a leather chair that cost more than her first car. When her assistant, a sharp young man named Marcus, knocked on the door. Lisa, there's a call for you on line 2. It's a lawyer from Henderson and Associates. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Henderson and Associates was her parents' law firm, the same firm that had drawn up their will, their trusts, their real estate documents. Put it through, she said. The voice on the other end was polished and diplomatic. Ms. Mitchell, my name is Arthur Crane. I represent your parents, Robert and Patricia Mitchell, as well as your sister, Chloe Mitchell-Brenner. I'm reaching out regarding a family matter. I don't have a family, Lisa said calmly. What do you want? Pause, then. Your parents are in a difficult position. Your sister's husband, Mr. Brenner, made a series of unauthorized investments that have gone disastrously wrong. The family home, the estate you grew up in, is in foreclosure. Your parents have exhausted their savings. They were hoping to discuss a financial accommodation with you. Lisa leaned back in her chair and smiled. It was not a kind smile. I see. And what does Chloe say about this? Another pause, longer this time. Ms. Mitchell-Brenner is aware of the situation. She has filed for divorce and is currently living with your parents. They are all very concerned about becoming homeless. Homeless. The word echoed in Lisa's memory. She thought about the studio apartment, the radiator that clanked, the nights she went to bed hungry because she had to choose between food and electricity. Mr. Crane, she said slowly, 2 years ago, on the night I was fired from my job, my parents threw a party for my sister's promotion. They ignored my tears, they forced me to serve their guests, and when I told them I had no money, my mother called me a liar, and my father handed me a receipt for a $400 cake and demanded I pay for it. I transferred the money. I had $150 left to my name. Do you know what they said? They said, "Thank you, Lisa. That's very responsible." Arthur Crane was silent for a long moment. I was not aware of those circumstances. No, Lisa said. No one ever is. So here's what is going to happen. I'm going to buy the family home. Not for them. For me. I will pay fair market value. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Your clients have 30 days to vacate the premises. If they leave quietly, I will not pursue legal action for the emotional distress they caused me. If they fight this, I will bury them in litigation so deep, they'll be paying my lawyers until they're dead. Do you understand? Ms. Mitchell, surely we can negotiate. There is no negotiation, Mr. Crane. You can tell my parents that their realtor will explain the rest. And please, give Chloe a message for me. Merry Christmas. She hung up. Part 4. The Walkthrough. 29 days later, Lisa stood in front of the house she grew up in. The hedges were overgrown. The porch swing was broken. The paint was peeling. It looked as tired and defeated as she had felt on that rainy night 2 years ago. But it was hers now. The deed had been transferred that morning. Phoenix Rising Solutions had purchased it outright. Her parents' cars were gone. The moving truck had come and gone the day before. But as she walked up the steps, she saw a single figure sitting on the porch, Chloe. Her sister looked older. Her hair was dull, her clothes wrinkled. She held a glass of what looked like cheap wine, and her eyes were red-rimmed. You actually did it, Chloe said, her voice hoarse. You bought our house. Lisa stopped at the top of the steps. I told you I would. Mom is in a hotel. She hasn't stopped crying for 3 days. Dad won't speak. He just stares at the wall. They lost everything, Lisa. Everything. I know, Lisa said quietly. I lost everything too once. On a night you were celebrating a promotion you didn't deserve. Do you remember what you said to me? You said, some of us just have that drive. I had that drive, Chloe. I just didn't have a family who gave a damn. Chloe's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was horrible to you. We all were. Mom and Dad, they always made me the favorite. I just went along with it. I didn't think. I didn't see. Lisa sat down on the step beside her sister. Not close. There was a foot of space between them, but she sat. I'm not here to punish you, Lisa said. I'm here because this house holds the only good memories I have. Grandpa teaching me to ride a bike in the backyard. Christmas mornings before Mom started caring more about appearances than people. I bought it to save those memories, not to destroy yours. Chloe wiped her nose with the back of her hand. What happens now? Lisa pulled an envelope from her jacket pocket. Inside was a check. Not for the house, that transaction was done, but for something else. This is for Mom and Dad, she said, handing it to Chloe. It's $50,000. Enough for first and last month's rent on a small apartment and 6 months of living expenses if they're careful. It's not a gift, it's a loan. They will pay me back in monthly installments over 5 years. I've already had my lawyer draw up the contract. Chloe stared at the check. Why would you do this, after what they did? Lisa stood up, brushing off her jeans. Because I'm not them. Because I remember what it felt like to have nothing, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone, not even people who broke me. And because forgiveness isn't about them, it's about me. I'm tired of carrying the weight of what they did. She walked to the front door, unlocked it with her new key, and stepped inside. The house smelled musty and empty, but as she walked through the living room, she could almost hear the echo of laughter. Not her mother's cold commands or her father's dismissive grunts, but real laughter from before. She turned back to Chloe, who was still sitting on the porch crying silently. "Tell Mom that her realtor will explain the rest," Lisa said. "And Chloe?" Chloe looked up. "I forgive you, but I'll never forget, and I'm never coming back to family dinners. This house is mine now. If you want to visit, you call first, and you leave the cruelty at the door." She closed the door gently, walked to the kitchen, and opened the refrigerator. It was empty, of course. She pulled out her phone and ordered a pizza, extra cheese, because she could afford it now. Then she sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where her mother had once handed her a cake receipt, and she smiled. For the first time in 2 years, it was a real smile. She had lost everything, and then she had built something new from the wreckage. Not revenge, not hatred, just a life. Her life, on her terms. And that, she decided, was worth more than any promotion, any party, or any $400 cake. 3 weeks after the party, the studio apartment had stopped smelling like despair and started smelling like instant ramen and determination. Lisa sat cross-legged on her secondhand mattress, laptop balanced on a pillow, a spreadsheet of job applications glowing on the cracked screen. She had sent out 47 resumes in the past 21 days. She had 3 interviews lined up for next week. It wasn't hope. She had buried hope somewhere between the 4th night of crying and the first morning she woke up without tears. It was momentum, motion, the stubborn refusal to stop moving. Her phone buzzed, a notification from her bank. "Alert, your account has been temporarily restricted. Please contact customer service immediately." Lisa frowned. She had $187.43 left in that account. She hadn't made any large purchases. She hadn't traveled. She hadn't even bought coffee from a shop in 2 weeks. She logged into mobile banking. Account status frozen. Her stomach dropped. Not the slow, sinking dread of bad news, the sudden, violent plunge of a roller coaster losing its tracks. She called the bank immediately. 23 minutes on hold, her knee bouncing, her thumbnail picking at a splinter on the mattress frame. Finally, a woman named Denise came on the line. "Thank you for holding. I see you're calling about the restriction on your checking and savings accounts." "Yes," Lisa said, keeping her voice steady. "I don't understand. I have no overdrafts, no outstanding debts. Why is my money frozen?" A pause, the clicking of a keyboard. Then Denise's voice, carefully neutral. "Ms. Mitchell, there is a legal hold on your accounts due to an outstanding debt of $78,430. Lisa forgot to breathe. "What?" "A personal loan originated approximately 14 months ago through Atlantic Union Credit. The payments have been delinquent for 6 months. The lender obtained a court order to freeze your accounts until the debt is addressed." "There has to be a mistake," Lisa said, her voice climbing. "I never took out a personal loan. I've never even heard of Atlantic Union Credit. I've had the same bank account since I was 19. Denise hesitated. Professional discretion warred with human sympathy. Sympathy won. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm not supposed to share this, but the loan documents show your signature, and the application lists an income of $95,000, which, given your current account activity, seems inconsistent. I strongly recommend you request a copy of the loan file from the credit union and file a dispute immediately, and maybe talk to a lawyer." Lisa hung up. She sat in the darkening room, the only light from her laptop screen, and stared at the wall. $78,430. That wasn't a typo. That wasn't a clerical error. That was a number someone had deliberately typed into a loan application, signed, submitted, stolen. And then, like a photograph developing in toxic chemicals, the truth began to emerge from the dark. The investigation. Lisa had spent 8 years in corporate strategy. She knew how to follow a paper trail. She knew how to ask questions that sounded casual but cut like scalpels. And she had nothing but time. Day 1. She requested the complete loan file from Atlantic Union Credit. They required a notarized identity verification and a $15 processing fee. She paid it with the last of her cash. Day 3. The file arrived via encrypted email, 47 pages. She printed them at the public library, feeding quarters into the machine like offerings to a vengeful god. The loan had been taken out 14 months ago, 6 months before she lost her job, back when she was still a senior director, still making 6 figures, still trusting that her family had her back. The loan amount was $78,430. The stated purpose? Home improvements. The collateral? None. The interest rate? Criminal. But the signature page made her blood run cold. It was her name, her handwriting, almost. The loops on the L were slightly too tight. The tail on the S was missing its usual flourish. Someone had practiced. Someone had studied her signature on old birthday cards or Christmas checks and replicated it with painstaking, fraudulent care. The address on the loan application? Her parents' house. The phone number? Her childhood home line. The employer listed? Her former company, of course. And the cosigner? No cosigner. Just her, alone, on the hook for every penny. Lisa closed the file, walked to the library bathroom, and vomited into the toilet. The digging deepens. She didn't cry. Not yet. Crying was a luxury she couldn't afford. Instead, she made a list. Who had access to her personal documents? Social security card, birth certificate, old tax returns? Who knew her mother's maiden name? The answer to every security question. Who would benefit from $78,430 appearing magically in someone's bank account? The answer to all three questions was the same, and it sat in her stomach like a stone. She called her younger brother Jake, the only family member who had never openly mocked her. He lived 3 states away and had cut ties with their parents 2 years ago after a similar, though less catastrophic, financial betrayal. "Jake," she said when he answered, "I need you to tell me something, and I need you to be honest." "Lisa, you sound like hell. What's wrong? Did mom and dad ever ask you for your social security number, or your birth certificate, or any financial documents?" A long, terrible silence. Then, "Yeah, about 3 years ago. They said they were setting up a family trust, that I needed to sign some papers for inheritance planning. I was young and stupid. I sent them everything. Why? Because they took out a loan in my name. $78,000. And I think they used my documents to do it." Jake swore, a long, creative string of profanities that ended with, "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done years ago," Lisa said. "I'm going to burn them down with the truth, the evidence." Lisa hired a lawyer, not a friend of a friend or a discount legal service. She scraped together her last dollars, borrowed $500 from Jake, sold her grandmother's locket on eBay. She cried afterward, but only for a minute, and retained Mariana Vasquez, a pit bull of an attorney who specialized in financial fraud and identity theft. Mariana was 52, wore suits that cost more than Lisa's monthly rent, and had a stare that could peel paint. She also had a personal vendetta against parents who stole from their children. "I see this more often than you'd believe," she said, flipping through the loan file. "Families are the most dangerous predators. They know your passwords. They know your fears. They know exactly which buttons to push." "So what do we do?" Lisa asked. "First, we gather every piece of paper, every email, every text message that connects your parents to this loan. Second, we file a police report for identity theft. Third, we wait for them to make a mistake. They always do. Frauds get cocky. They think they've gotten away with it." Lisa spent the next 2 weeks becoming a forensic accountant. She requested bank statements from her parents' accounts. Legal discovery would come later, but she had old statements her mother had carelessly left on the family printer years ago. She cross-referenced dates. She built a timeline. And there it was. The $78,430 had been deposited into a joint account held by Patricia and Robert Mitchell on a Tuesday. The very next day, 2 large transfers had been made. $45,000 to a luxury car dealership. $33,430 to Chloe M. Brenner, with the memo line, "Wedding gift. Love, Mom and Dad." A wedding gift. For Chloe, who had gotten engaged 6 months before the loan was taken out, who had been posting Instagram photos of her destination engagement party, her diamond upgrade, her surprise honeymoon fund. Lisa screenshot everything. She organized it into a folder labeled Exhibit A. She backed it up to 3 different cloud services and a USB drive she kept in her sock drawer. Then she went to the police. The report. The detective assigned to her case was a weary man named O'Leary, who had seen too much and trusted no one. He listened to her story without interrupting, his pen moving slowly across a notepad. "So you're telling me your parents forged your signature on a loan application, used the money to buy your sister a car and a wedding gift, and then let the loan go delinquent so your credit would be destroyed?" "Yes." "And you have documentary evidence?" "I have everything. Bank statements, the loan file with the forged signature, text messages, and I have a witness." "Who?" "My brother. He'll testify that our parents asked him for his personal documents under false pretenses." Pattern of behavior. Detective O'Leary leaned back. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm going to be honest with you. Most identity theft cases never get solved. But most victims don't come in with a 40-page evidence packet and a lawyer on speed dial. I'll assign a forensic analyst to look at the signature comparison. If it's as clear-cut as you say, we'll present it to the DA for criminal charges." "How long?" "A few weeks. Maybe less if your lawyer puts pressure on the credit union to cooperate." Lisa nodded. "They'll cooperate. Mariana is very persuasive." The family group chat. Lisa had been removed from the family group chat after the party, but her friend Sarah, who was still loosely connected to the extended family through a cousin, had access. Sarah sent screenshots. The chat was called Mitchell's United. Lisa almost laughed at the irony. 2 days after Lisa filed the police report, she received the first batch of screenshots from Sarah. "Chloe, guess who just picked up her new car?" "Mom, you deserve it, sweetheart. You work so hard." "Chloe, it's a 2025 BMW X5, fully loaded. Eric said he's never been more attracted to me. LOL. Cousin Megan. Wow, Chloe, how did you afford that?" "Chloe, let's just say my parents are the best. They set up a little surprise fund for me and Eric, a gift for our future." Dad. "Family takes care of family." Chloe. Meanwhile, Lisa is probably still sulking in her studio apartment. Has anyone heard from her? No? Shocking. Mom. "We don't talk about Lisa. She made her choice when she walked out on your celebration. Her loss." more BMW for me. Lisa read the messages 3 times. Her hands were shaking, but not from anger, from anticipation. She replied to Sarah, "Keep sending me these, every single one." Then she forwarded the screenshots to Mariana. Lisa, Exhibit B. She's literally bragging about the car the loan paid for. Mariana, beautiful. Juries love this kind of evidence. Keep it coming. The trap. Lisa didn't confront her family. She didn't send an angry text. She didn't post a passive-aggressive Facebook status. She vanished completely, blocked their numbers, deleted her social media, disappeared from every platform they might use to monitor her. But she was watching. Through Sarah, she learned that Chloe had quit her job 2 weeks ago to focus on wedding planning. She learned that Eric, Chloe's fiancé, had bought a Rolex with money from a family inheritance. She learned that her parents were planning a second vacation home in Florida, all of it paid for, directly or indirectly, by the $78,430 that was destroying Lisa's credit, her bank accounts, her future. And then the mistake. Chloe posted a photo in the group chat, a picture of her new BMW's dashboard with the odometer reading. She had captioned it, "First 100 miles. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Couldn't have done it without you." But she hadn't cropped the photo carefully enough. In the corner of the image, partially visible on the passenger seat, was a document, a loan application, from Atlantic Union Credit, with Lisa's name at the top. Sarah zoomed in. The text was blurry but legible. Lisa Marie Mitchell in bold letters. Sarah sent the zoomed-in screenshot to Lisa at 11:47 p.m. Lisa forwarded it to Mariana at 11:48 p.m. Mariana replied at 11:52 p.m. "I'm filing the civil suit tomorrow morning, and I'm sending this photo to Detective O'Leary as additional evidence. They just hung themselves." Calm before. That night, Lisa sat on her balcony, a narrow ledge barely wide enough for a plastic chair, and watched the city lights flicker. The studio apartment was still small, still cheap, still a monument to her fallen life. But something had changed. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was a hunter. Her parents had stolen from her. They had forged her name, destroyed her credit, laughed at her suffering, and then used the money to buy luxury cars and wedding gifts for the daughter they actually loved. They had done it because they thought she would never fight back. They had done it because they thought she was weak. They were wrong. The civil suit would demand repayment of the full $78,430 plus interest, legal fees, and punitive damages for emotional distress. The criminal charges could lead to prison time. Identity theft was a felony in her state, punishable by up to 5 years. And the evidence was ironclad. Lisa picked up her phone and, for the first time in weeks, opened the family group chat. She had been removed, but Sarah had added her back using a burner number. She typed one message, just one. Lisa said, "The loan was in my name, the car was for Chloe. The police have all the evidence. Merry Christmas." Then she watched. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the chat exploded. Mom said, "What are you talking about?" Dad said, "Lisa, don't do anything stupid." Chloe said, "That's a lie. That's such a lie." "Mom, tell her it's a lie." Mom said, "Lisa, we can talk about this. Family discussion, no lawyers." Dad said, "Whatever you think you know, you're wrong." Lisa said, "I'm not wrong. I have the loan application. I have the bank statements. I have the photo of the document in Chloe's car. And I have a lawyer who is very excited to see you in court." Chloe said, "You're ruining my life. Again. You're just jealous that I have everything and you have nothing." Lisa said, "I have the truth. And I have the police report number. That's more than enough." She left the chat. She blocked every single one of them. And then she went inside, made herself a cup of tea, and slept through the night for the first time in a month. The Rising. 3 days later, Mariana called. "The credit union has agreed to reverse the loan and remove all negative marks from your credit report. They're also paying you a $15,000 settlement for their negligent verification process. The check will arrive next week." Lisa closed her eyes. "And my parents? Criminal charges have been filed. Detective O'Leary arrested your father this morning. Your mother is being questioned as an accomplice. Your sister's not facing charges, yet, but the DA is considering adding her for conspiracy if she doesn't cooperate. The civil suit will be served by the end of the week. Will they go to prison? Probably not. First-time offenders, white-collar crime, family dynamics. But they will have felony records. They will never be able to take out a loan again. They will lose their house, the one they didn't steal to buy. And they will owe you more money than they can ever earn. Your sister's BMW is being repossessed as we speak." Lisa laughed. It was a raw, honest sound. "Thank you, Mariana." "Don't thank me. You did the work. You gathered the evidence. You stayed calm when you had every right to burn the world down. Most people can't do that. You did." After she hung up, Lisa walked to her laptop. She opened a new document and typed 2 words, Chapter 2. The first chapter had been loss, devastation, betrayal. But this chapter, this was something else. This was the part where the heroine stopped running and started building. Not revenge exactly, justice, and the quiet, unshakable knowledge that she had survived the worst her family could do, and she was still standing. Her bank accounts would be unfrozen by the end of the week. The fraudulent loan would disappear from her credit report, and the people who had tried to destroy her would spend years paying back every penny, every lie, every forged signature. Lisa closed the laptop, walked to the window, and watched the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. She had hit bottom, and now, finally, she was rising. 1 week after the arrests. Lisa's phone buzzed at 8:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. She was halfway through her second cup of coffee, reviewing a contract for a new consulting client. Her first real paycheck since the fraud had been uncovered. The screen displayed a number she didn't recognize, but the area code was her hometown. She almost ignored it. She didn't. "Lisa, dear, it's your mother." Patricia's voice was soft, measured, the kind of voice she used when she wanted something. Lisa had heard that tone 1,000 times. Before Christmas gift exchanges, before family photo shoots, before every performance where the Mitchells needed to look perfect to the outside world. "Mom," Lisa kept her voice flat, "I have nothing to say to you. Your lawyer should be handling all communication. Please, don't hang up." A pause, then quieter. "Your father and I have done a lot of thinking. About everything. About the loan. About the way we treated you. We want to make things right." Lisa almost laughed. "Make things right? You forged my signature. You destroyed my credit. You let me starve in a studio apartment while you bought Chloe a BMW. "I know." Patricia's voice cracked. "A performance, surely, but a good one. We know, and we are so deeply sorry. We were wrong. We were desperate. Your sister was struggling, and we thought we were helping, but it was unforgivable. We want to sit down with you, face to face. Just the three of us. No lawyers, no Chloe. We want to apologize properly and see if there's any way to salvage some kind of relationship." Lisa was silent for a long moment. Every instinct screamed trap, but Mariana's voice echoed in her head. "If they ever reach out again, record everything. People confess when they think they're safe. They say the quiet part out loud when they believe you've already forgiven them." "When and where?" Lisa asked. "Friday night, 7 o'clock. Our house, well, the rental house now. I'll text you the address. Please, Lisa, give us one chance. I'll think about it." She hung up and immediately called Mariana. "They want dinner," Lisa said. "Apology, reconciliation, just the three of us." Mariana snorted. "Apology? They're facing felony charges in a civil suit that will bankrupt them. They don't want to apologize. They want something, probably to pressure you into dropping the charges or signing some ridiculous agreement." "That's what I thought." "So go. Wear a recorder. Keep your cool. Let them talk. The more they say, the more rope they give you. If they admit to the forgery on tape, the criminal case becomes ironclad. Even a plea deal would be off the table. What if it's dangerous? It's a family dinner, not a back alley. But take someone with you. Wait in the car outside. If you don't text by 9, they come in. And Lisa, do not sign anything. Do not agree to anything. Do not let them make you feel guilty. You are the victim here. Remember that." Friday night, 6:55 p.m. The rental house was a modest ranch in a faded subdivision, a far cry from the sprawling colonial Lisa had grown up in. The lawn was patchy. The shutters needed paint. She wondered if they had sold the family home to pay for Chloe's wedding, or if the bank had taken it. She didn't care enough to ask. She sat in her car for a full minute, checking the recorder. It was a small digital voice recorder, smaller than a deck of cards, clipped to the inside of her purse. She had tested it 3 times. The microphone picked up everything within 10 feet. She pressed record and let it run. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. She walked to the front door and knocked. No need to pretend this was a warm reunion. They had lost the right to easy entry. Her father opened the door. Robert Mitchell looked 10 years older than he had at the party. His hair was grayer, thinner. His eyes were bloodshot. He wore a button-down shirt that was wrinkled at the collar, and his hands trembled slightly as he stepped aside. "Lisa, come in." She stepped into the living room. It was sparse. Rental furniture, beige walls, a single family photo on the mantel. Not of her, of course. Of Chloe at her college graduation. Her mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Patricia was wearing a soft cardigan and no makeup. She looked smaller than Lisa remembered, vulnerable almost. "Thank you for coming," Patricia said, her voice thick. "I made your favorite, beef stew, the way Grandma used to make it." Lisa said nothing. She sat down at the dining table, a small, round thing that barely fit 4 chairs. Parents sat across from her. The stew was placed in the center, along with a basket of bread. It smelled good. Lisa didn't touch it. "We wanted to talk before we eat," Robert began, his voice gruff. "Clear the air. Say the things we should have said a long time ago." "I'm listening," Lisa said. Her parents exchanged a glance, the kind of glance that said, "Follow the script." Patricia leaned forward, clasping her hands on the table. "Lisa, what we did, taking out that loan in your name, it was wrong. There's no excuse. We were desperate to help Chloe. She was in a bad place and we panicked. We never meant to hurt you." "You never meant to hurt me," Lisa repeated slowly. "So you forged my signature, stole my credit, and left me with $78,000 in debt. But you didn't mean to hurt me." Robert's jaw tightened. "We thought you would never find out, or that if you did, you would understand. Family helps family. Family helps family," Lisa echoed. "That's interesting, because when I lost my job and needed help, you asked me to pay for a cake." A flash of irritation crossed Patricia's face, quickly smoothed over. "We've apologized. We're apologizing now. Can we please move forward?" "Move forward how?" Another glance between them. This was the pivot. Lisa could feel it. Robert cleared his throat. "Chloe's wedding is in 6 weeks. You know that. What you might not know is that her credit, well, it's not great. Between the car loan and some other debts, she and Eric can't qualify for a mortgage on their own. They found a lovely little starter home, but the bank won't approve them without a cosigner." Lisa waited. "We were hoping," Patricia said, her voice dripping with forced sweetness, "that you might consider cosigning the loan." just as a gesture of family solidarity. You don't even have to pay anything. Your name would just be on the paperwork to help them get approved. Once they make a few payments on time, they can refinance and take you off." The room was very quiet. "You want me," Lisa said slowly, "to co-sign a mortgage for the sister who mocked me at her promotion party. The sister whose wedding you paid for with money you stole from me, after you destroyed my credit and I'm just now rebuilding it. You want me to put my name on another loan for Chloe?" "It's not another loan," Robert said quickly. "It's just a signature, a formality." "A formality," Lisa repeated. "Like my signature on the Atlantic Union loan was a formality?" Patricia's eyes hardened. "That was different. We made a mistake. We're trying to make amends." "No, you're not," Lisa said. "You're trying to use me again. You don't want to make amends. You want a co-signer. And when I say no, you'll get angry. You'll call me selfish. You'll say I'm ruining Chloe's life. Am I wrong?" Silence. Then Robert's face darkened. The mask of contrition slipped, and the man underneath, the man who had handed her a cake receipt while she wept, emerged. "You always do this," he said, his voice rising. "You always make everything about you. Chloe needs help. Her wedding is in 6 weeks. She can't buy a house without a cosigner. And you're sitting there with your good credit that we helped you build, by the way, and you won't lift a finger for your own sister." "You didn't help me build anything," Lisa said calmly. "You stole from me. We borrowed," Patricia snapped, her composure crumbling. "We borrowed money to help Chloe, and we intended to pay it back. But then you had to go and get all legal about it, calling the police, getting a lawyer. You've torn this family apart, Lisa, all because you couldn't stand to see your sister happy for once." Lisa leaned back in her chair. "I couldn't stand to see her happy? She was celebrating a junior manager promotion while I was being fired, and you made me pay for the cake. Oh, for God's sake, let the cake go." Robert slammed his hand on the table. The stew bowls rattled. "You are the most envious, selfish brat I have ever known. You have been jealous of Chloe's success since the night of her promotion. No, since long before that. You couldn't stand that she was getting attention, that she was getting married, that she was happy. And now when she needs you most, you sit there like a stone and refuse to help." "I'm not refusing to help," Lisa said. "I'm refusing to co-sign a loan. Those are different things." "They are the same thing." Patricia's voice was shrill now. "You owe us, Lisa. We raised you. We fed you. We clothed you. We paid for your college. And this is how you repay us? By letting your sister lose her dream house because you're too bitter to sign a piece of paper?" "I don't owe you anything," Lisa said quietly. "Not after what you did." Robert stood up, knocking his chair back. His face was red, veins bulging in his neck. What we did was try to help our daughter, our real daughter, the one who actually appreciates us. You think we wanted to forge your signature? You think we enjoyed it? We had no choice. Chloe needed that money, and you would have said no if we asked. You always say no." "I never said no," Lisa said. "You never asked." "Because we knew what you'd say," Patricia shouted. "You'd have lectured us about responsibility and budgets and all that nonsense. You were always so superior, so perfect, looking down on Chloe because she wasn't as successful as you. Well, look where your success got you. Fired, alone, living in some hovel while your sister has a fiancé and a future." Lisa stood up slowly. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply reached into her purse, making sure the recorder was still running, and said, "So you admit it. You forged my signature." "So what if we used your name?" Robert exploded, throwing his hands in the air. "So what? We are a family. We had every right. Your name is Mitchell, just like ours. What's yours is ours. That's how families work. You don't get to hoard your credit and your money and your precious reputation while your sister struggles." "Every right," Lisa repeated. "You had every right to steal my identity." "We didn't steal anything," Patricia said, but her voice wavered. "We borrowed. There's a difference. And if you had just kept quiet, none of this would have happened. The loan would have been paid back eventually. You wouldn't have lost anything. But you had to make a scene. You had to call the police. You had to ruin your father's record and drag our family name through the mud." Lisa picked up her purse. "I didn't ruin anything. You did. You forged my signature. You took out a fraudulent loan. You destroyed my credit. And now, instead of apologizing, you're demanding that I co-sign another loan for the same sister who benefited from your crime. Do you hear yourselves?" Robert stepped toward her, pointing a shaking finger. "You walk out that door and you are dead to us. You hear me? Dead. No more chances, no more dinners, no more family. You will have nothing. And when you're old and alone, you'll remember this night. You'll remember that we offered you a way back in, and you threw it away because of your pride." "I'll remember," Lisa said softly. "I'll remember everything." She walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped out into the cool night air. Behind her, she heard her mother sobbing. Whether from grief or rage, she couldn't tell. She heard her father's muffled curses. She heard a plate shatter against a wall. She did not look back. She got into her car, locked the doors, and sat in silence for a full minute. Her hands were shaking now. Adrenaline, not fear. She pulled out her phone and saw a text from Sarah, who was waiting 2 blocks away. "You okay?" I'm fine, Lisa typed. Heading home, got everything I needed. She turned off the voice recorder, rewound a few seconds, and pressed play. Her father's voice filled the car. So what if we used your name? We are a family. We had every right. Her mother's voice, sharp and defensive. We didn't steal anything. We borrowed. The confession, clear as a bell. No ambiguity, no room for interpretation. They had admitted on tape to forging her signature and using her identity without permission, and they had done it while demanding she co-sign another loan, evidence of continuing exploitation. Lisa forwarded the audio file to Mariana with a single message: evidence. They confessed to everything. Also, they wanted me to co-sign a mortgage for Chloe. I said no. They got angry. Mariana's reply came within 2 minutes. This is gold. I'm sending this to the prosecutor tonight. Their plea deal just went up in smoke. Well done. Now go home, drink some tea, and don't talk to them ever again. Lisa started the engine and pulled away from the curb. As she drove past the rental house, she saw the silhouette of her father in the window, still gesturing angrily. She wondered if he knew that his rage had just sealed his fate. Probably not. Men like him never did. She drove home through the empty streets, the recorder warm in her purse, and for the first time in months, she felt something close to peace. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't even justice, not yet. But it was the truth, captured and preserved. And the truth, she had finally learned, was the only weapon that could cut through the lies of a family that had stopped loving her long before she stopped loving them. She parked her car, walked up to her modest apartment, and locked the door behind her. The recorder went into a drawer next to the USB drive with all the other evidence. Tomorrow, she would call Mariana. Tomorrow, she would think about the next step. Tonight, she would sleep. And in the morning, she would rise again. 3 days after the dinner trap. The recording from the family dinner had changed everything. Mariana Vasquez listened to it 3 times in her office, her expression shifting from professional neutrality to something resembling predatory satisfaction. By the time the audio file ended, she was already drafting motions. This is a confession, she told Lisa over the phone. Not a hint, not an implication. Your father explicitly says, so what if we used your name? Your mother says, we didn't steal anything, we borrowed. That's admission of intent and knowledge. The prosecutor will salivate. So what's the next step? Lisa asked. She was sitting in her new apartment, still modest, but with working heat and a door that locked properly. The morning sun streamed through the window, and for once, she felt like she was standing on solid ground. We give them one last chance to do the right thing before we burn their world down, Mariana said. I'm going to draft a formal demand letter and cease and desist. It will lay out everything: the fraudulent loan, the forged signature, the emotional distress, the financial damages. We'll give them 72 hours to assume full responsibility for the debt, meaning they transfer the remaining balance into their own names and pay you compensation for the credit damage and legal fees. If they refuse, we hand the entire file, including the recording, to the police and federal investigators. Identity theft across state lines is a federal crime, Lisa. We're talking prison time. Do you think they'll take the deal? Mariana laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. No, people like this never do. They think they can bully, guilt, or threaten their way out of anything, but we're going to give them the choice anyway. That way, when they end up in handcuffs, no one can say they weren't warned. The letter. The demand letter arrived at the Mitchell's rental house via certified mail at 10:37 a.m. on a Tuesday. It came in a thick manila envelope bearing the letterhead of Vasquez and Associates and required a signature from either Robert or Patricia Mitchell. Robert signed for it with a scowl, ripped open the envelope, and read the first paragraph in the kitchen, while Patricia hovered behind him. The letter was 9 pages long. It was not kind. It began, to Robert Mitchell, Patricia Mitchell, and Chloe Mitchell Brenner. Formal demand for restitution and cease and desist regarding identity theft, fraud, and emotional distress. This letter serves as official notice that your illegal actions, specifically the forgery of Lisa Marie Mitchell's signature on a $78,430 loan application with Atlantic Union Credit, the misappropriation of her personal identifying information, and the subsequent destruction of her credit and financial stability, have been documented in full. Evidence in our possession includes bank statements, the forged loan application, photographic evidence, witness testimony, and a recorded confession obtained on date, in which both Robert and Patricia Mitchell admit to the forgery and assert that they had every right to use Lisa's name. You have 72 hours from receipt of this letter to take the following actions. Formally assume full responsibility for the fraudulent loan, including transferring the remaining balance of $62,140 into your own names and removing Lisa Mitchell from any and all liability. Pay restitution in the amount of $25,000 to cover Lisa Mitchell's legal fees, credit repair costs, and emotional distress damages. Provide a signed, notarized affidavit stating that you will never again attempt to use Lisa Mitchell's personal information, credit, or identity for any purpose. If these conditions are met by the deadline, we will agree to a civil settlement and will not pursue criminal charges. If the deadline passes without full compliance, we will immediately forward all evidence to the local police department, the state attorney general's office, and the Federal Trade Commission's Identity Theft Division. Federal charges for interstate identity fraud carry penalties of up to 15 years in prison and fines of up to $250,000. This is your only warning. The clock starts now. Robert's hands shook as he lowered the letter. Patricia had gone pale. "He can't do this," Patricia whispered. "She can't do this. We're her parents." "Read the last page," Robert said, his voice hollow. The last page was a copy of a signed affidavit from a certified forensic audio analyst, confirming that the recording of the dinner conversation was authentic, unaltered, and legally admissible. The confession was transcribed verbatim. Robert Mitchell. "So what if we used your name? We are a family. We had every right." Patricia Mitchell. "We didn't steal anything. We borrowed." Patricia sat down heavily on a kitchen chair. "She recorded us. Our own daughter recorded us." "She's not our daughter anymore," Robert said, but his voice lacked conviction. He looked at the letter again at the 72-hour deadline, and for the first time in his life, he understood that he might not be able to talk, threaten, or guilt his way out of trouble. He picked up his phone and called Chloe. The phone terror begins. Lisa was in the middle of a client consultation when her phone began vibrating. She ignored it. By the time the meeting ended 20 minutes later, she had 14 missed calls, 8 text messages, and 3 voicemails, all from family numbers she had not yet blocked. She sat down at her desk, took a deep breath, and listened to the first voicemail. "Chloe, 11:04 a.m. Lisa? Lisa, it's Chloe. Mom and Dad just got some letter from your lawyer. What is wrong with you? Are you trying to destroy us? I'm getting married in 6 weeks. You can't do this. Call me back now." The second voicemail, 11 minutes later. "Chloe, 11:15 a.m. Lisa, I'm serious. Eric's parents are asking questions. If they find out about any of this, the wedding might be called off. Do you want that on your conscience? I know you're angry, but this is insane. Just call me. We can work something out." The third voicemail, 11:42 a.m. This one was different. Chloe was crying, messy, hiccuping sobs that made her words almost unintelligible. "Chloe, 11:42 a.m. Please, Lisa, please, I'm begging you." Eric saw the letter. He says if there's a criminal investigation, his family won't let him marry me. He's talking about postponing the wedding. Postponing. My whole life is falling apart. I know I was mean to you. I know I said horrible things, but you're ruining my engagement. Please, just drop the charges. I'll do anything, anything. Just don't send that recording to the police, please. Lisa saved the voicemail. Then she listened to the 4. Patricia, 12:15 p.m. Lisa, it's your mother. Your father is furious, but I'm trying to keep everyone calm. We need to talk, just the two of us. Woman to woman, I know you feel wronged, and you have every right to be upset. But family is family. You don't send your own parents to prison over a misunderstanding. Call me. Let's have lunch. My treat. A misunderstanding? Lisa almost admired the audacity. Almost. The 5th voicemail was from her father. She braced herself. Robert, 12:33 p.m. Lisa, I'm not going to beg. You listen to me and you listen good. Your grandmother's will hasn't been finalized yet. She's 83 years old and not in great health. If you go through with this, if you hand that recording to the police, I will make sure you are completely cut out of her inheritance. Every penny, every piece of jewelry, every family heirloom, you will get nothing. And don't think I'm bluffing. Your grandmother listens to me. She always has. So you have a choice. Drop this nonsense and co-sign that mortgage like we asked, or spend the rest of your life knowing that you threw away your birthright out of spite. The 6th voicemail was from Chloe again, later in the afternoon. Chloe, 2:08 p.m. Lisa, I can't eat. I can't sleep. Eric is threatening to call off the entire wedding. His parents think I'm a criminal. Do you understand what you're doing to me? You've always been jealous, but this is next level. I hope you're happy. I hope that recording makes you feel powerful, because you're destroying your sister's life. And for what? Money? Revenge? You're pathetic. The 7th voicemail, 3:45 p.m. Another from Patricia. Patricia, 3:45 p.m. Lisa, your father didn't mean what he said about the inheritance. He's just scared. We're all scared. Please, honey, don't do this. Think about the family name. Think about what people will say. Your Aunt Margaret is already asking questions. If this goes to court, it will be in the newspapers. Our reputation will be ruined. Is that what you want? To be known as the daughter who sent her parents to jail? Please. Just tell your lawyer to withdraw the letter. We'll figure something out. We always do. The 8th voicemail. Chloe again, now hysterical. Chloe, 5:20 p.m. He did it. Eric called off the engagement. He said he can't marry into a family with pending felony charges. He's picking up his things tonight. My wedding is canceled. My life is over. Are you happy now, Lisa? Are you fucking happy? I hope you rot in hell. I hope everyone finds out what a monster you are. You ruined everything. Everything. The ninth voicemail, 6:55 p.m. A new number. Lisa didn't recognize it, but the voice was unmistakable. Eric, Chloe's ex-fiancé, 6:55 p.m. Ms. Mitchell, this is Eric Brenner. I don't know if you'll ever get this message, but I wanted you to know that I've ended things with Chloe. Not because of you, because of what she and her parents did to you. I didn't know about the forgery. I didn't know about the loan. When I found out, I couldn't look at her the same way. You didn't ruin anything. She did. I'm sorry for the pain they've caused you, and I hope you get the justice you deserve. Lisa listened to that message twice. Then she saved it too. The text message onslaught. The voicemails were bad. The texts were worse. Chloe, 4:12 p.m. You're evil. Pure evil. I hope you never have children because you'd ruin them too. Chloe, 4:14 p.m. Eric just left. He took the ring. I'm alone in our apartment. Are you happy now? Chloe, 4:16 p.m. I'm going to tell everyone what you did. I'll post the letter on Facebook. I'll tag your old boss. Everyone will know how petty and vindictive you are. Chloe, 4:18 p.m. Please, just call me. Just say you're sorry. We can fix this. I'll do anything. Patricia, 4:45 p.m. Your father is drinking. He never drinks. This is destroying him. Please, Lisa, have a heart. Patricia, 5:10 p.m. I raised you. I changed your diapers. I stayed up with you when you had fevers. Doesn't that mean anything? Patricia, 5:45 p.m. Your grandmother called. She's confused. She doesn't understand why there are lawyers involved. I had to lie to her. Do you want that on your conscience? Robert, 6:30 p.m. Last chance. Drop the charges, or I'm calling Grandma tonight and telling her you're trying to steal from her. She'll cut you out of the will herself. Robert, 7 p.m. Fine. You've made your choice. Don't come crying to me when you're old and alone with nothing. Chloe, 7:30 p.m. I'm going to bed. If I don't wake up tomorrow, it's your fault. Lisa stared at that last message for a long time. A part of her, the old part, the part that still wanted a family, felt a flicker of fear. But then she remembered the dinner, the recorder, the confession. She remembered her father screaming that she was an envious, selfish brat. She remembered her mother saying she owed them for being raised. She took a screenshot of Chloe's text and sent it to Mariana. Lisa, Chloe just sent a suicide-baiting text. If I don't wake up tomorrow, it's your fault. Mariana, forward that to me immediately. That's emotional abuse and potentially a criminal threat. Do not respond. Do not engage. I'll have a wellness check done on her if you're genuinely concerned, but this smells like manipulation. Lisa, it's manipulation. She's done it before. When we were teenagers, she threatened to run away every time she didn't get what she wanted. Mariana. Then we treat it as evidence of her unstable character. Save everything. The cold block. Lisa sat on her couch, phone in hand, and looked at the list of block numbers she had been compiling. Chloe, Patricia, Robert, now Eric's old number, though that one didn't need blocking. She added the burner numbers her mother had used in the past. She added her aunt's number, just in case Patricia tried to use it as a relay. One by one, she blocked them. Chloe's final text came through at 8:02 p.m. You're dead to me. Dead. I'm telling everyone you're a sociopath. Have fun in your empty apartment with your empty life. Lisa blocked her mid-sentence. Then she opened her contacts and added 3 new entries. Blocked Chloe. Blocked Mom. Blocked Dad. She put them in a folder labeled No Contact. She set her phone to silence unknown callers. The silence that followed was almost deafening. For weeks, her phone had been a source of dread, each buzz a potential new wound. Now there was nothing. No sobbing voicemails, no threatening texts, no manipulative pleas. She poured herself a glass of water, not champagne, not wine, and sat in the quiet. The sun had set. The city lights were beginning to flicker on outside her window. She thought about the 72-hour clock that was now ticking down. 59 hours left, then 58, then 57. Her family would spend those hours panicking, plotting, probably calling every relative they could find to turn them against her. They would lie. They would exaggerate. They would paint themselves as victims and Lisa as the villain. That was what they did. That was what they had always done. But for the first time in her life, Lisa didn't care. She had the recording, she had the letters, she had the law on her side. And she had finally stopped believing that their love was something she could earn if she just tried hard enough. Her phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her look. Lisa, it's Grandma. Your mother called me crying. She said you're trying to send your father to prison. I don't understand what's happening, but I love you. Please call me when you can. I want to hear your side. Lisa's throat tightened. Her grandmother was the only family member who had ever shown her unconditional kindness. The only one who had sent her birthday cards after she moved out, who had called just to check in, who had never once taken sides in the endless war between Lisa and Chloe. She saved the number and typed back, I love you too, Grandma. I'll call you tomorrow. Don't worry. The truth will come out. Then she turned off her phone, climbed into bed, and closed her eyes. The clock was ticking. Her family was panicking, and for the first time in her life, Lisa was not running toward their chaos. She was walking away. The next morning, she woke to a clear sky and a quiet phone. 26 new messages had come in overnight, all from blocked numbers, all automatically filtered into a spam folder she didn't have to look at. She didn't look. Instead, she made coffee, opened her laptop, and reviewed the timeline Mariana had sent. Day 1. Today, demand letter delivered. 72-hour clock starts at 10:37 a.m. Day 3, deadline. If no compliance by 10:37 a.m., Mariana files the criminal referral with police, state AG, and FTC. Day 4, arrest warrants likely. Lisa closed the laptop. She had no illusions that her parents would comply. They had spent their entire lives avoiding consequences. They would lawyer up, stall, lie, and try to drag this out. But the recording was damning, the evidence was overwhelming, and Lisa had stopped being the scared little girl who needed their approval. She picked up her phone and called her grandmother. "Grandma, it's Lisa. I have a story to tell you. It's a long one, and it's not pretty, but you deserve to know the truth." Her grandmother listened. She didn't interrupt. When Lisa finished, when she had described the loan, the forgery, the party, the cake, the dinner, the confession, there was a long silence on the line. Then her grandmother said, her voice trembling but steady, "I'm cutting your father out of my will. Not you, him. And I'm changing my lawyer tomorrow. You are my granddaughter and I believe you. I always have." Lisa cried then. Just a little, just enough. She had lost her parents. She had lost her sister. But she had gained something she never expected. The quiet, unshakable knowledge that she was not the problem. She never had been. The clock ticked down. The phone stayed silent. And Lisa Mitchell, for the first time in years, was free. 72 hours later, the deadline passes. No compliance came, no transfer of debt, no signed affidavit, no apology. At 10:38 a.m. on the third day, Mariana Vasquez filed the criminal referral with the district attorney's office. By 2 p.m., the Mitchells had been served with notice of pending charges: identity theft, forgery, conspiracy to commit fraud, and financial exploitation of a family member. Arraignment was set for 3 weeks later. Lisa spent those 3 weeks preparing, not trembling, not second-guessing, preparing. She reviewed the evidence with Mariana until she could recite every date, every dollar, every text message from memory. She practiced her testimony. She steeled herself for the sight of her parents across a courtroom, and when the day finally came, she was ready. The courthouse, 9 a.m. The courthouse was a gray stone building with pillars that looked like they belonged on a Greek temple. Lisa arrived early, dressed in a navy blue suit she had bought specifically for this occasion. No jewelry, no makeup except a touch of lipstick. She wanted to look professional, credible, and, above all, serious. Mariana met her at the entrance, carrying a leather briefcase that seemed to bulge with papers. "Nervous?" "No," Lisa said, and she meant it. "Good, because they're going to try to paint you as the villain. Their lawyer is Harold Finch. He's expensive, he's aggressive, and he specializes in family cases. He's going to attack your character, your mental state, your motives. Don't react. Let him talk. The truth is on our side." They walked through the metal detectors and into the courtroom. It was a small, wood-paneled room with a high ceiling and a judge's bench that seemed to loom over everything. The gallery was nearly empty. A few court clerks, a stenographer, a sheriff's deputy, and in the front row, on the defense side, sat her parents. Robert and Patricia Mitchell looked nothing like the confident people who had hosted Chloe's promotion party. Robert's suit was wrinkled. His face was gray, his eyes hollow. Patricia clutched a rosary in her hands, her lips moving silently. Beside them sat a man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, Harold Finch, their attorney. He had silver hair, a sharp jaw, and the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. Chloe was not there. Lisa had been told that Chloe had been offered immunity in exchange for testimony, but she had refused to cooperate. Instead, she had fled to a friend's house in another state, leaving her parents to face the music alone. Lisa took her seat at the prosecution table. She did not look at her parents. She could feel their eyes on her, burning, accusing, but she kept her gaze forward, on the judge's empty chair. The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Eleanor Vance entered, a woman in her late 50s with iron gray hair and spectacles perched on her nose. She had a reputation for being fair but stern, with no patience for theatrics. "This is the matter of the state versus Robert Mitchell, Patricia Mitchell, and Chloe Mitchell Brenner," the judge said. "The defendant, Chloe Mitchell Brenner, is not present. We will proceed with the remaining defendants. Counsel, state your appearances." Mariana stood. "Mariana Vasquez for the state, Your Honor. The victim, Lisa Mitchell, is present." Harold Finch rose smoothly. "Harold Finch for the defendants, Robert and Patricia Mitchell. Your Honor, we intend to prove that this case is not a criminal matter, but a family dispute blown wildly out of proportion. My clients have been victimized by a daughter with a long history of emotional instability and vindictive behavior." Lisa's jaw tightened, but she didn't react. Judge Vance peered over her glasses. "We'll see about that. The prosecution may present its case." The prosecution's opening. Mariana walked to the center of the courtroom. She did not use notes. She did not pace. She stood still, her voice clear and measured. "Your Honor, on October 17th, Lisa Mitchell was fired from her job. That same evening, her parents threw a lavish party for her younger sister's promotion. Lisa attended despite her devastation. Her parents forced her to serve the guests, mocked her tears, and then handed her a receipt for a $400 cake and demanded she pay for it. She transferred the money with her last dollars and walked out. She paused, letting the image settle. That was only the beginning. While Lisa was struggling to survive in a studio apartment, her parents had already stolen her identity. 14 months earlier, they had forged her signature on a $78,000 $430 loan application. They used the money to buy a luxury car for Chloe and fund a lavish wedding. When Lisa discovered the fraud, she did not scream. She did not threaten. She gathered evidence. She hired a lawyer, and when her parents invited her to dinner under the false pretense of reconciliation, she brought a recorder. On that recording, Robert and Patricia Mitchell admit, explicitly, to forging her signature. They say, and I quote, "So what if we used your name? We are a family. We had every right." Mariana turned to face the defense table. "The prosecution will prove that this was not a misunderstanding. It was not a loan. It was identity theft, plain and simple, and we will ask for the maximum penalty." She sat down. Harold Finch rose, buttoning his jacket. "Your Honor, the prosecution's narrative is compelling, but it is also incomplete. My clients will testify that Lisa Mitchell was a willing participant in the loan. She signed the papers herself. She knew the money was for her sister, and her behavior at the party, paying for the cake without argument, demonstrates a pattern of financial cooperation. The recording my clients made at dinner was taken out of context. They were frustrated, yes. They said things they regret, but they never committed a crime. This is a case of a bitter, jealous daughter who lost her job and decided to destroy her family rather than face her own failures." Lisa's hands curled into fists under the table, but she kept her face neutral. The testimony begins. The prosecution called its first witness, the forensic document examiner, Dr. Alan Reyes. He was a short, bald man with thick glasses and a calm, methodical way of speaking. He had examined the original loan application, Lisa's known signatures from driver's license, old tax forms, and a notarized affidavit, and the alleged signature on the loan. "Dr. Reyes, what did you find?" Mariana asked. "The signature on the loan application is a forgery," he said. "There are multiple indicators, inconsistent pen pressure, a tremor in the loops that suggests tracing, and a complete mismatch in the slant of the letters. Lisa Mitchell's genuine signature has a consistent rightward slant of approximately 15 degrees. The forged signature has a leftward slant of 5 degrees. It is physically impossible for the same person to produce both signatures without deliberate alteration. Could Lisa have signed it differently on purpose to make it look forged? No. Handwriting patterns are subconscious. You cannot change your slant that dramatically without training and intent. And even then, a forensic examiner would detect the deception. This signature was written by someone trying to copy Lisa Mitchell's handwriting, but failing. Mariana submitted the report into evidence. Harold Finch cross-examined, trying to poke holes in the methodology, but Dr. Reyes was unshakable. The forgery was real. Next, Mariana called a bank representative who testified that the $78,430 had been deposited into the Mitchells' joint account and then transferred directly to a car dealership and to Chloe's personal account. The paper trail was clean, undeniable. Then came the recording. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to play Exhibit G, the audio recording from the family dinner on date. Judge Vance nodded. Proceed. The courtroom fell silent. The speakers crackled, and then Patricia's voice filled the room. We've apologized. We're apologizing now. Can we please move forward? Robert's voice. Chloe's wedding is in 6 weeks. She and Eric can't qualify for a mortgage without a cosigner. We were hoping you might cosign. Lisa's voice. You want me to cosign a mortgage? For the sister who mocked me, after you stole my identity. Patricia. That was different. We made a mistake. Lisa. No, you didn't. You're trying to use me again. Then Robert's voice rising. You are the most envious, selfish brat I have ever known. You have been jealous of Chloe's success since the night of her promotion. More shouting. Patricia. You owe us, Lisa. We raised you. And then the confession. Robert. So what if we used your name? We are a family. We had every right. Patricia. We didn't steal anything. We borrowed. The recording ended. The courtroom was utterly silent. Judge Vance's face had hardened into stone. Harold Finch shifted in his seat, but his expression remained composed. Your Honor, Finch said, this recording is clearly taken out of context. My clients were under extreme emotional duress. They were being attacked by their daughter. They admitted to forgery, Mr. Finch, the judge interrupted. On tape. You may cross-examine the witness about the recording's authenticity, but the content speaks for itself. Mariana called Lisa to the stand. Lisa's testimony. Lisa walked to the witness box, raised her right hand, and swore to tell the truth. She sat down, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. Ms. Mitchell, Mariana began, did you sign the loan application for $78,430 from Atlantic Union Credit? No. Did you authorize anyone to sign it on your behalf? No. Did you know that your parents had taken out a loan in your name? Not until my bank accounts were frozen and the bank told me about the delinquency. How did that make you feel? Lisa paused. She had practiced this. No emotion, just facts. But the truth slipped out anyway. It felt like they had reached into my chest and pulled out my heart. I had already lost my job. I'd already lost my family. And then I learned that they had stolen my future too. Harold Finch rose for cross-examination. He approached the witness box with a friendly smile, the kind of smile a shark might wear. Ms. Mitchell, isn't it true that you have always been jealous of your sister? No. Isn't it true that you refused to attend Chloe's engagement party? I wasn't invited. Isn't it true that you left your parents' house on the night of Chloe's promotion party in a fit of rage? I left after they demanded I pay for the cake. Yes, I wasn't raging. I was crying. Crying, of course. Finch picked up a piece of paper. This is a bank statement showing a $400 transfer from your account to your father's account on the night of October 17th. That's the cake payment, correct? Yes. So despite your claim that you were devastated and had no money, you transferred $400 without argument. Doesn't that suggest you were financially cooperative with your family? Lisa met his eyes. It suggests I was desperate for their approval. It suggests I was willing to give my last dollars to people who didn't love me because I hadn't yet accepted that truth. Finch's smile flickered. But you did give the money, voluntarily. Yes. And you never reported that as theft? Because it wasn't theft. It was emotional extortion. But the loan was different. I never agreed to that. I never signed that. Finch pressed on, trying to paint her as unstable, bitter, vengeful. But Lisa answered each question with quiet precision. She did not raise her voice. She did not cry. She simply told the truth. Finally, Finch stepped back. No further questions. Mariana stood. Redirect, Your Honor, just one question. She turned to Lisa. Ms. Mitchell, after everything that has happened, the forgery, the fraud, the dinner, the threats, do you still love your parents? Lisa looked across the courtroom at Robert and Patricia. Her father wouldn't meet her eyes. Her mother was crying silently, the rosary still in her hands. I love the idea of them, Lisa said quietly. I love the parents I wish they had been. But the people who stole from me, who lied about me, who called me a selfish brat for refusing to be victimized again? No, I don't love those people. And I don't think they ever loved me. The courtroom was silent. The twist, the surprise witness. Mariana turned to the judge. Your Honor, the prosecution has one more witness. We would like to call Eric Brenner. The defense table erupted. Robert half rose from his chair. Patricia gasped. Harold Finch's composure cracked for the first time. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Mr. Brenner was never disclosed as a witness. The witness list was filed this morning, Mr. Finch, the judge said calmly. That is within the rules. Mr. Brenner, please take the stand. The door at the back of the courtroom opened, and Eric Brenner walked in. He was tall, clean-shaven, dressed in a simple gray suit. He looked nervous, but resolved. He did not glance at the defense table. He walked directly to the witness box, was sworn in, and sat down. Mariana approached him. Mr. Brenner, you were engaged to Chloe Mitchell Brenner, correct? Yes, until I broke off the engagement. And why did you break it off? Because I discovered that Chloe and her parents had committed fraud against her sister, Lisa. I couldn't marry someone capable of that. What did you discover specifically? Eric took a deep breath. Chloe showed me the loan documents. She was proud of them. She said, my parents took care of everything. Lisa doesn't even know. I asked what she meant, and she explained that her parents had forged Lisa's signature. She laughed about it. She said, Lisa's always been the responsible one. Let her be responsible for our car. I was horrified. I told her it was a crime. She told me to mind my own business. Did you report this to anyone? Not immediately. I was trying to process it. But then Lisa's lawyer sent the demand letter, and Chloe started panicking. She asked me to lie if anyone questioned me. She said, just say Lisa was in on it. Just say she gave permission. That's when I knew I couldn't stay with her. I called the district attorney's office and offered to cooperate. Harold Finch was on his feet. Your Honor, this witness has a clear motive to lie. He is bitter about the broken engagement. He is trying to hurt the family. Judge Vance raised an eyebrow. Mr. Finch, you may cross-examine, but the witness's testimony is highly relevant. Finch's cross-examination was brutal. He accused Eric of being a jilted lover, of exaggerating, of trying to gain favor with the prosecution to avoid his own legal exposure. But Eric held firm. Did Chloe ever say, in your presence, that Lisa knowingly signed the loan papers? Finch demanded. No. She said Lisa didn't know. She said, and I quote, Lisa's too stupid to check her credit. We'll be fine. Objection. Hearsay, Finch shouted. It's an admission by a co-conspirator, Your Honor, Mariana said calmly. Perfectly admissible. Judge Vance nodded. Overruled. Continue, Eric continued. Chloe also told me that her parents had done something similar before, used a relative's information for a credit card. She mentioned an aunt, but I don't remember the name. The gallery murmured. Robert's face had gone from gray to white. Patricia was openly sobbing now. No further questions, Finch said, sitting down heavily. Mariana rested. Finch called Robert and Patricia to the stand, but their testimony was a disaster. Robert stammered. Patricia contradicted herself 3 times. They claimed the loan was a family arrangement, but they couldn't explain why they hadn't simply asked Lisa for permission. Claimed the recording was edited, but the forensic expert had already verified its authenticity. In his closing argument, Finch tried everything. Sympathy. They are elderly, frightened people. Blame shifting. Lisa manipulated the system. And even character assassination. She paid for the cake willingly. She's a liar. But it was too little too late. Mariana's closing was simple. They forged her name. They stole her money. They laughed about it. And when she fought back, they called her crazy. The evidence is overwhelming. Find them guilty. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, Robert and Patricia were both trembling. Judge Vance read the verdicts. On the charge of identity theft against Robert Mitchell, guilty. On the charge of forgery against Robert Mitchell, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud against Robert Mitchell, guilty. On the charge of identity theft against Patricia Mitchell, guilty. On the charge of forgery against Patricia Mitchell, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud against Patricia Mitchell, guilty. Robert clutched the table. His knuckles were white. Patricia let out a wail that echoed off the wood-paneled walls. The deputy moved to stand behind them. Judge Vance looked down at the defendants. Sentencing will be scheduled for 30 days from today. Given the severity of the crimes, the amount stolen, and the lack of remorse, I am ordering that both defendants be taken into custody immediately pending sentencing. Bail is denied. No! Patricia screamed. You can't. We're good people. We're a family. The deputy helped her to her feet. Robert didn't resist. He just stared at Lisa with an expression she couldn't read. Hatred, perhaps, or disbelief, or the first dawning realization that he had destroyed his own life. As they were led away, Robert finally spoke. His voice was hoarse. Lisa, you've killed us. Lisa stood up. She looked at her father, this broken, pathetic man who had once been her hero, and said nothing. There was nothing left to say. She turned and walked out of the courtroom, Mariana by her side. The aftermath. In the hallway, Lisa stopped. Her legs were shaking. She leaned against the wall and let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. It's over, Mariana said softly. No, Lisa replied. It's just beginning. But for the first time, I'm not afraid. She walked down the marble steps of the courthouse and into the sunlight. Behind her, the building stood cold and gray. Ahead of her, the rest of her life waited. She had no family left, not in any meaningful sense, but she had herself. She had her freedom, and she had the truth. That, she decided, was enough. 3 months later, spring. The snow had melted. The city was waking up, trees budding green along the sidewalks, and the air smelled like wet earth and possibility. Lisa stood at the window of her new apartment, a bright, airy one-bedroom with large windows and a small balcony that faced east. The morning sun poured in, painting gold stripes across her hardwood floors. She had moved 2 weeks after the trial, not because she needed to run, but because she wanted to start fresh. The studio apartment had served its purpose. It had been her cocoon, her cave, her shelter during the darkest months of her life. But she was no longer that woman. She was no longer hiding. The new place was on the 5th floor of a renovated brick building, with a kitchen that actually had counter space and a bedroom large enough for a real bed. There were plants on the windowsill, 3 of them, all thriving. There were photographs on the wall, her grandmother, her brother Jake, a few friends who had stuck by her through the chaos. No pictures of her parents, no pictures of Chloe. She didn't need reminders of what she had escaped. She needed reminders of what she was building. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mariana. Judgment finalized. Asset seizure complete. Your credit report is clean. You are officially free and clear. Congratulations, Lisa. You earned it. Lisa smiled and typed back, thank you for everything. Then she sat down at her small dining table, opened her laptop, and reviewed the offer letter that had arrived yesterday. A corner office, a 6-figure salary, a signing bonus large enough to pay off every last cent of her remaining debts. The company was a tech startup with a reputation for treating its employees like humans. Remote work, mental health days, stock options that actually meant something. She had interviewed 2 weeks after the trial. Walking into the conference room with her head held high, they had asked about the gap in her resume. She had told them the truth. I was the victim of identity theft and family fraud. I spent those months rebuilding my life and winning a court case. I am stronger now than I have ever been. They had offered her the job the next day. She signed the offer letter with a flourish, scanned it, and emailed it back. Then she closed the laptop, put on a coat, and walked outside. The financial reckoning. The court-ordered asset seizure had been swift and absolute. Lisa had been given a front-row seat to the dismantling of everything her parents had built on her stolen credit. The BMW, Chloe's pride, her joy, her fully loaded status symbol, had been repossessed by the bank within a week of the trial. Lisa had received a copy of the seizure notice. Vehicle repossessed due to fraudulent financing. Returned to lender for auction. She imagined Chloe's face when the tow truck arrived. She didn't feel satisfaction. She felt nothing. The car had never been hers. The debt had never been hers. Now, finally, the metal and rubber matched the paperwork. The Mitchell's rental house, the modest ranch in the faded subdivision, had been sold at a court-ordered auction. The proceeds went first to pay off the remaining balance of the fraudulent loan, then to cover Lisa's legal fees and emotional distress compensation. The rest, a paltry sum, was returned to her parents. They would need it for their new living arrangements. Because Robert and Patricia Mitchell were no longer free. The judge had handed down their sentences on a gray Monday morning, 3 weeks after the verdict. Lisa had attended, sitting in the back row, watching as her parents stood before the bench in matching orange jumpsuits. They looked smaller than she remembered, older, defeated. Robert had received 3 years of probation, 400 hours of community service, and a $50,000 fine, the maximum allowed for first-time offenders in a non-violent fraud case. But the judge had added a condition. Robert was not permitted to hold any position of financial responsibility, nor could he apply for any loan or line of credit without court approval. His credit was effectively destroyed. Patricia had received 2 years of probation, 250 hours of community service, and a $25,000 fine. She was also ordered to undergo family therapy, not with Lisa, but with a court-appointed counselor, to address what the judge called a profound lack of empathy and boundary recognition. Neither of them would serve prison time. Lisa had known that going in. White-collar family crimes rarely led to incarceration, but the felony convictions would follow them forever. They would never work in finance again. They would never be trusted with anyone's sensitive information. and their names would appear on background checks for the rest of their lives. As they were led out of the courtroom, Patricia had turned and looked at Lisa. Her eyes were red, her face swollen from crying. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came. Robert didn't look back at all. He walked with his head down, shoulders hunched, the man who had once screamed about family rights now reduced to a shuffling figure in government-issued orange. Lisa had stayed in her seat until the doors closed behind them. Then she had stood up, walked out, and not looked back. Chloe's fall. The story had leaked. Lisa hadn't leaked it. She had no interest in dragging her sister's name through the mud for sport. But court records are public, and reporters from the local news had picked up the case. A dramatic tale of identity theft, family betrayal, and a daughter who fought back. Within a week, the story had been picked up by a regional business journal, then a national news website, then a true crime podcast. Chloe's employer, a mid-sized marketing firm where she had worked as an account coordinator, had seen the story. Specifically, they had seen the part where Chloe bragged in a family group chat about buying a BMW with money stolen from her sister. They had seen the part where she laughed about Lisa being too stupid to check her credit. She was fired 2 days after the article went live. The official reason was conduct unbecoming of an employee, but everyone knew the truth. No one wanted to work alongside someone who had participated in the financial destruction of her own flesh and blood. Chloe had tried to fight it. She had lawyered up, threatened to sue for wrongful termination, demanded a public apology. But her lawyer, a cheap, desperate man working on a payment plan, had quickly realized that Chloe had no case. She had posted the incriminating messages herself. She had signed the group chat transcripts. She had made herself a liability. Now, 3 months later, Chloe was living in a cramped studio apartment in a town 3 hours away, working part-time at a retail clothing store. Her engagement to Eric was long over. He had changed his phone number and moved to another city. Her friends had abandoned her, either out of disgust or fear of being associated with a convicted fraudster's sister. Lisa knew all of this not because she had sought it out, but because her brother Jake had kept her updated. Jake, who had also cut ties with their parents, had been monitoring the fallout with a kind of grim fascination. "She's not doing well," Jake had texted last week. "She called me crying at 2 a.m., asking if she could move in with me. I said no. She called me a traitor. I hung up. You did the right thing, Lisa. Don't ever doubt that." Lisa didn't doubt it. Not anymore. The new job. Her first day at the new company was a Tuesday. The office was in a renovated warehouse downtown. Exposed brick, high ceilings, a coffee bar that rivaled any cafe. Corner office had a window that faced the river, and her name was already on the door. Lisa Mitchell, Director of Strategic Operations. She spent the morning in meetings, learning the names of her new colleagues, absorbing the culture of a place where people actually seemed to enjoy their work. No one asked about her family. No one mentioned the trial. They had hired her for her skills, her experience, her resilience, not her trauma. At lunch, her new boss, a woman named Priya with kind eyes and a sharp mind, sat down across from her in the break room. "I read about your case," Priya said quietly. "Not because I was snooping, because someone sent me the article after your interview. They wanted me to reconsider hiring you. They said you might be too much trouble." Lisa's stomach tightened. "What did you say?" Priya smiled. "I said that anyone who survived that kind of betrayal and still showed up with a smile and a resume was exactly the kind of person I wanted on my team. That I fired the person who sent me the article for violating your privacy. We don't do that here." Lisa blinked. "You fired them?" "I did. This company runs on trust. Gossip and sabotage aren't welcome." Priya stood up. "Welcome aboard, Lisa. You're going to do great things here." The cafe Friday afternoon. Her first week was complete. She had survived the onboarding, the meetings, the small talk. She had even made a friend, a data analyst named Marcus, who had recommended a good Thai place for lunch. But now, the sun was warm, the weekend was stretching ahead, and Lisa wanted to be alone. Not in a sad way, in a peaceful way. She walked to a quiet cafe 3 blocks from her apartment, a place called The Pause, with mismatched furniture, shelves of used books, and a cat named Waffles who slept on the windowsill. She ordered a flat white and a chocolate croissant, then took a seat by the window. The cafe was nearly empty. A student typed on a laptop in the corner. An elderly couple shared a slice of cake at a nearby table. Waffles opened one eye, yawned, and went back to sleep. Lisa sipped her coffee. It was perfect, rich, smooth, just the right temperature. She broke off a piece of the croissant and let the buttery flakes dissolve on her tongue. Outside, people walked past. A mother pushing a stroller, a man in a suit talking on his phone, a teenager with headphones and a skateboard. Ordinary lives, ordinary moments. The kind of moments she had almost lost. She thought about the cake. Not the croissant, the cake. The $400 monstrosity her father had demanded she pay for on the worst night of her life. That cake had been a weapon, a symbol of everything wrong with her family. They had used it to humiliate her, to control her, to prove that her needs would never matter as much as Chloe's wants. But now, looking back, she saw it differently. That cake had been the beginning. The moment she transferred those $400, her last real money, she had drawn a line. Not a line of anger or revenge, but a line of self-respect. She had paid for the cake because she had refused to fight over it. She had walked out because she had refused to stay. And in that act of quiet defiance, she had set herself free. Best investment I ever made, she thought. Not because the money had bought anything valuable. It hadn't. The cake was long gone, eaten by people who didn't deserve it. But the act of paying it, and the choice that followed, had bought her something priceless. Her freedom. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from obligation. Freedom from the endless, exhausting cycle of trying to earn love from people who had none to give. She took another sip of coffee and watched a cloud drift past the window. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jake. Mom and Dad are asking about you. They want to send a letter. I told them you don't want contact. They said you'll regret it someday. I said they already regret everything. No reply. LOL. Lisa smiled and typed back, ignore them. Let's have dinner next week. My treat. Jake. You're buying? Did you win the lottery? Lisa. Better. I got a job that actually pays me what I'm worth. Jake. Proud of you, sis. Always have been. She put her phone down and looked out the window again. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. The student in the corner packed up her laptop and left. The elderly couple finished their cake and walked out hand in hand. Waffles stretched, jumped off the windowsill, and padded over to Lisa's table, rubbing against her leg. She scratched behind his ears. He purred. For so long, Lisa had measured her worth by her parents' approval, her sister's success, her job title, her bank account. She had believed that if she just worked hard enough, sacrificed enough, gave enough, she would finally be seen, finally be loved, finally be enough. But she had been looking in the wrong places. The love she needed had never been in that house. It had never been in Chloe's laugh, or her mother's conditional praise, or her father's grudging tolerance. It had been inside her all along, buried under years of guilt and fear and desperate hope, and it had taken losing everything to find it. She finished her coffee, brushed the croissant crumbs from her lap, and stood up. She left a generous tip on the table, more than the cost of the pastry, and walked to the door. Waffles meowed once as if to say goodbye. Outside, the air was warm and soft. Spring had arrived, the trees were blooming, and Lisa Mitchell, who had once been the family's biggest disappointment, walked down the sidewalk with her head high and her heart light. She had a home, she had a job, she had a future, and she had paid exactly $400 for the freedom to enjoy all of it.